In this video, we will study the thoughts of Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679. He was a tutor of Charles II of England, was a great English philosopher. He was born in 1588 and lived in the stirring time of the Great Rebellion and Commonwealth. The witnessed He witnessed the civil war in England and was deeply affected by its miseries. He had so much shocked by the after effects of the civil war that he concluded that the salvation of the country lay in the absolute system of the government. He used the doctrine of social contract for the purpose. This is reason why he sought to justify the absolute power of the sovereign in his book Leviathan. He never had a mind to propound the in his book the Thomas Hobbes ने Leviathan लिखा था. Leviathan, Thomas Hobbes justify the absolute power in the sovereign in his book Leviathan. Absolute country relate to absolute system in his government. He used doctrine of social contract इसने दिया था. He never had a mind to propound a theory regarding the origin of a state. His sole objective was to define the position of the steward and support despotic monarchy. Thomas Hobbes' description of the state of nature. The time human was solitary, poor, nasty, British, and short. To Hobbes, the state of nature was a state of war, a war of all against all, and state is which nothing can be just, and force and fraud were two cardinal virtues. 3 reasons for quarrel: competition, difference, glory. राजा को खुद जनता ने चुना है, ज़्यादा पावर. Sovereignty is invisible. This is to say, it cannot be divided. It is main soul of law. It is main soul of the state of nature. Hobbes' contrary and its implications. According to Hobbes, since the ruler is not a part of this contract, he cannot be compelled to act according to the condition of the craft. Hobbes is the exponent enables the ruler to become a despot. Following are the highlights of the Hobbes contract theory. Thomas Hobbes. It is a social contract that the sovereign is not a party to it. People authorized and gave up the right of governing themselves to the sovereign, who came into being as a result of social contract. People cannot break the ties of contract according to their will, because it is based on the sentiment of fear. People entered into the contract of entirely their lives in safeguarding their interest. If people break the ties of the contract and act according to their will, they will degenerate into their primitive stage and their life will be peril. According to Hobbes, if man by nature is not a social animal and so nourished himself antisocial feeling, which he suppressed only by absolute monarchy, so it becomes essential for the sovereign to become a despot. Consequently, his right would be numerous and supreme. Sovereignty is invisible. This is to say, it can be divided. The sovereign is the main source of law, and his commands are law. The sovereign possesses the sovereign possesses this is to say, the authority to impart justice and deals with the mutual disputes. This contract is both social and political because it established the society and government at the same time. Conclusion. Thus, the first modern philosopher to articulate a detailed contract theory was Thomas Hobbes. According to Hobbes, the lives of individuals in the state of nature were solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short, a state in which self interest and the absence of right and contract prevailed. The social society life was anarchic. This state of nature is followed by the social contract. It was a occurrence during which individuals came together and sealed some of their individual rights so that others would cede theirs. This resulted in the establishment of the state, a sovereign entity like the individuals now under its rule used to be, which would create laws to regulate social interactions. States were thus bound to be conflict because there was no sovereign with over and above the state capable of imposing some system such as social contract laws on everyone by force. Taxation. Tax is basically a source of revenue of the government. Tax is basically the source of revenue of the government. Tax, direct tax, indirect tax, revenue receipt, and capital receipts. Taxes are the biggest source of revenue for the government. Taxes can be defined as the compulsory contribution from the person to the government to the expenses incurred in the common interest of all, without references to special benefits conferred. Types of taxes: direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes, it is one that the taxpayers pays directly to the government. Example: income tax, corporation tax, property tax. Income tax, wealth tax, property tax, corporation tax, ये सब डायरेक्ट टैक्स है. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में वैट, मोड वैट, सेन वैट, जीएसटी, ये सब अपना इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स के अंदर आता है. It is a tax that can be passed by another person or group. Example: entertainment tax, GSTC, value added tax. Regressive in nature, a burden of payment. GST इनडायरेक्ट है ना, इनडायरेक्टली आता है. बर्डन ऑफ पेमेंट इनकम होल्डर पे ही आता है. और प्रोग्रेसिव टैक्स है ये. इनकम टैक्स देखो, इट इज़ द टैक्स चार्ज बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. हाँ, इनकम टैक्स सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. इट इज़ द टैक्स चार्ज बाय सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट ऑन द इनकम अर्नड बाय इंडिविजुअल ड्यूरिंग अ फाइनेंशियल ईयर. करेंटली इट स्लैब्स. सो इनकम टैक्स है ना, वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के द्वारा लिया जाता है. कॉर्पोरेट इनकम टैक्स, इट इज़ लिवाइड बाय द इनकम ऑफ द कॉर्पोरेट्स. बजट 2020-21 हैज़ proposed to reduce the corporate tax rate for new companies in the manufacturing sectors to and 15% of the existing companies to 22%. कंपनी, डोमेस्टिक कंपनी और इंटरनेशनल कंपनी देखो, डोमेस्टिक कंपनी और इंटरनेशनल कंपनी, इंडियन कंपनीज, इंटरनेशनल कंपनी. कंट्रोल एंड मैनेज बिजनेस, इंटरनेट कंट्रोल एंड मैनेज. मिनिमम अल्टरनेटिव टैक्स क्या होता है? MAT, मिनिमम अल्टरनेटिव टैक्स. ऑल कंपनीज हैव बुक प्रॉफिट्स अंडर द कंपनीज एक्ट शैल हैव टू पे अ मिनिमम अल्टरनेट टैक्स एट 18.5%. MAT, minimum alternative tax is the way of making companies pay minimum amount of budget 2020 to 21, reduce the rate of minimum alternative tax from 18.5% to 15%. इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में देखो, वैट की बात करते हैं, वैल्यू एडेड टैक्स. इट इज़ एन एड वोलनरेबल टैक्स, एड वोलेरम टैक्स ऑन डोमेस्टिक फाइनल कंजम्पशन, डिवाइड and collected at all stages between production and the point of final sale. It covers both manufacturing as well as distribution stages and does away with the multiplicity of domestic indirect taxes like sales tax, excise duty, wholesale tax, turnover tax, etc. Mode VAT. Modified value added. Under this, a producer has to pay tax on the value of final output, but the excise duty paid on inputs. On earlier stages, the production is reimbursed back to the producer on the presentation of sale invoices. SINVAT. It was introduced in the form of revamped mode VAT. It had all the features of mode VAT, for only exceptions of uniform tax rate, and its coverage was extended to include capital goods. SINVAT. It was introduced in the form of revamped mode VAT. It had all the features of mode VAT. taxes, no tax up to rupees 2.5 लाख। तो जिसकी सैलरी ईयरली 2.5 लाख है उससे टैक्स नहीं लिया जाएगा। 5% बिटवीन, अगर 5% टैक्स लिया जाता है बिटवीन 2.5 लाख टू 5 लाख, इसमें 5% टैक्स लिया जाता है। 20% ऑफ इनकम बिटवीन इतना 5 लाख से 10 लाख 20% लिया जाता है। 30% 10 लाख के बीच। बाप रे, इतना सारा टैक्स लैब्स है। मैंने सुना दुबई में ऐसा नहीं होता। दुबई में तुम जितना भी पैसे कमाओगे सब तुम्हारे, गवर्नमेंट पैसे नहीं लेती। स्पेसिफिक एंड एड वैलोरम टैक्स, नेक्स्ट वीडियो।